What's going on, people? It's your boy Kelechi back with another episode of the Ramblin' Mind Podcast. How are each and every single one of y'all doing today? I hope y'all are staying safe. I hope y'all are taking care of yourselves. I hope y'all are doing all the things you know you ought to do during these times, my friends. We've had beautiful weather the last few days, even though it's about to get frozen again this week. But that's not why you came here. This ain't the Weather Channel. You came here to learn about money. Well, in this video and in this podcast, I'm going to share with you an interesting study that I found about millionaires, on millionaires. This was from the Ramsey Solutions. It was a study that was done on 10,000 millionaires. It was a study trying to understand what does it take to become a millionaire. There were a few things in the study that I was not in my head along like, yep, that makes perfect sense. But then there was some other stuff in the study like, that does not compute with what I've been told. It just really challenged, but also gave me hope as to like, oh, this thing is very achievable. It's not that crazy. But I just want to start off with a few things, a couple of things that I saw in the study that I was like, oh yeah, that makes perfect sense. So we'll start off with this one. According to the survey, 8 out of 10 millionaires invested in their company's 401k plan. And that simple step was a key to their financial success. Not only that, but 3 out of 4 of those surveyed also invested outside of company plans. So 80%, all they did was use a 401k. All they did. 401k was the only thing they did. But then 75% of people also had that Roth IRA. My guys, if you ain't opened up that Roth IRA yet, please, my friends, go open that thing up and start dollar cost averaging. All right, let's keep going. 3 out of 4 millionaires said that regular, consistent investing over a long period of time is the reason for their success. So the story about the young computer genius who developed an app that earned millions overnight is the exception, not the rule. Automatically, there's one lesson we can learn from this. To become wealthy, the number one lesson I just learned from this is it takes consistency and time. Consistency, aka discipline, and time. Which points to a big factor, which is behavior matters. More than anything else, behavior is a large predictor of how you become a millionaire. That's very important. But then on the other side, time. You have to give it time. I love doing compound. If anybody who knows me knows, I love running these compound interest calculations. I love running it. I even have an app on my phone to do different compound calculations all the time to be like, okay, if I invested this amount of money over this period of time, how much would that be? Because it is insane to see the magic of compounding. Let's say you start off with $0 and all you do is contribute $500 a month over the next 30 years. How much money do you think you will have if you have an interest rate of about 7%, or let's say 10%? We'll say 10%, but after taxes and all that stuff, it might take off about 3% from your total return. So if you calculate it, you will have close to $1 million just for $500 a month. $500 a month. Let's just do a quick math of how much money you actually have to sacrifice over your lifetime of earning. So $500 a month times 12, that's $6,000 a year, times 30. $180,000 is all it took for you to come out with close to $1 million, which points to it takes you discipline, consistently investing over time for you to see the results that you're looking for. But let's keep going on in this study. The next logical question is, what kind of salaries do wealthy people make? Not as much as you think. The majority of millionaires in this survey didn't have high-level, high-salary jobs. In fact, only 15% of millionaires were in senior leadership roles such as vice presidents or C-suites. In other words, CEO, CFO, COO. 93% of billionaires say they got their wealth because they worked hard, not because they had big salary. And then it says the top 5 careers for millionaires. I wish I had hit the page before I showed it to y'all, because there's a game I like playing with my friends nowadays, which is, what careers do you think most millionaires are? What is the most common careers for millionaires? Everyone usually says some of the fanciest, like doctor, heart surgeons. But the thing is, like, those are a tiny part of the population. How many people do you know are heart surgeons? There ain't a whole lot. How many people do you know are doctors? Well, if you're Nigerian, a lot. Because Nigerians, there's a lot of Nigerian doctors. Like, that's just who we are. Like, Nigerians are going to be doctors. But the point I'm trying to make is because that's what we see. That's what we're shown, that's who a millionaire looks like. There's a book called The Millionaire Next Door, and it breaks down that the millionaire is actually your next door neighbor who drives that clunky old Honda Civic. That doesn't look anything special, but they're millionaires. But it says that the top 5 careers for those who are listening to the podcast are as follows: engineer, accountant, because we live in the United States and, they can't make our tax system any easier. So, you got to pay accountants to help you with the whole tax system. Teachers. Let me say it one more time. Teachers. We'll come back to that one. Management, so, being a supervisor, upper level manager in the company. And then finally, attorneys, because lawyers, they get paid. But going back to one other one, teacher. Teacher is the 3rd most common career for millionaires. And then they double down. The survey then doubles down on that and says only 31% averaged $100,000 a year over the course of their career, and 1/3 never made 6 figures in any single working year of their careers. This was shocking to me. This part was definitely shocking to me. But there is something that I have to note here. Mostly, I'm pretty sure most of the millionaires that were surveyed in this are baby boomers. Who built most of their wealth not in today's dollars, but years ago in some of the best economic times in history of the United States. The baby boomers, a lot of the companies that we know and love today, the baby boomers worked for those companies where they had pensions and they had all of these things, where school wasn't as expensive, student debt was not a thing. So there's a lot of things to caveat as well, right? There's a lot of things to caveat in this of comparing them to today. So $100,000 back in the day is not the same as $100,000 today. $100,000 back in the day was substantial. It was very substantial. Not to say $100,000 today is still not substantial. It's still a very high income, but it is important for us to note the difference. But that does not neglect from the fact of what they actually accomplished, especially those who were teachers. It does not neglect the fact, because guess what? There were other teachers who also were getting paid the same amount of money and didn't become millionaires. So if we do an apples to apples comparison, we can still see how impressive it is what these folks accomplished. We can see how impressive it is of what they got to. And I keep pointing out this teacher factor because we all know it's literally a known thing in society. Teachers don't get paid that much when they should really be getting paid more. And so actually put into perspective of how much teachers actually make here in the United States, let's just a quick Google search. In my home state of Georgia, the average starting salary for a teacher is $35,000. You can literally make more money working for Amazon at a warehouse. Think about that. Now, of course, Amazon is a little bit more taxing, but even still, being a teacher is hard. It's hard. Which points to one thing. Teachers do it out of the labor of love. We need to pay teachers more, man. But then the average salary overall is just $55,000 here in Georgia. Now, there are some states that pay a little bit better. In New York, the average salary is about $80,000. But that's New York. Cost of living there is super high. Point I'm trying to make in this is like it said in the thing, it doesn't take you making buku bucks. It doesn't take you making a boatload of money, which again points to the thing we heard before. It is about the behavior. It's the behavior. And we'll talk about it here in a second. It's how are you using your money? The Bible says he who is faithful with a little will be entrusted with more. What are you doing with the dollars you currently have? Everybody's chasing, I need to make more money. I need to make more money. But what are you doing with the money that you currently have today? Money is a skill. It doesn't require you to have a bunch of it for you to learn how to use that skill. So the question is, what are you doing now? Okay, you're not making buku bucks. That's fine. How are you using the money that you have now? And then the next one that it breaks down that shocked me, it says millionaires go to college but not to elite schools. It says the national study of millionaires showed that it's the degree itself that matters, not where the degree comes from. We need to share this thing with our teenagers today because we have ingrained in them that they need to go to these elite institutions. No, you do not. Now, is it competitive in the workforce? Yes, but I can tell you, I went to the University of Alabama at Birmingham, and yet doors have been opened to me. Multiple doors, incredible doors. I didn't go to an elite school. Now, of course, I'm not gonna play myself to say an elite school does not help. That would be me lying to myself. It definitely can help. Because if you go to Harvard, the doors that's gonna be open to you, like, it's definitely different. However, you don't need to go to that $50,000 a year private college that is not in the upper echelon. And then you come out with boatloads of student debt. Now, again, remember what I said earlier. This study was probably done mostly on the boomer generation. College was not as expensive, right? College was not as expensive. But it says in the study that almost 2/3 of millionaires graduated from public state schools, while only 8% went to prestigious private schools. But the bulk of millionaires did get that piece of paper. Counter to popular belief of the way to become a million nowadays is for you to drop out of school. Now, there are some people that can succeed with it. There are some people who have the ability to succeed by dropping out of school and then pursuing an entrepreneurship route. Or you can still drop out of school and pursue a trade of some kind. But the question for me, for most people, is do you have the work ethic to do it? So hearing both of these things is very anti to what we are told. It's very counter to what culture tells us. Now, it doesn't mean that what culture tells us is not true, because what culture tells us is get a high-flying, fancy job, get a very high income, make a very high income, become an entrepreneur. These are the things that we are told how you become millionaires. But the reality is completely different. Now, I'm not going to trip. I mean, those things definitely help. Like I said, if you go to a prestigious college, it definitely helps. The amount of people who get opportunities by going to Stanford and being in the hookup of just all the things that's happening in the area for engineers, that's like literally Stanford, MIT are literally the gold standard of the things that you can do in school. But it doesn't mean that if you go to your local college that you can't do well as well. And that if you just have a pretty good job, that you can't be wealthy as well. Now, those things definitely help. Having your own business definitely helps. Being in a higher level in your company definitely helps. Going to a prestigious college and getting a fancy degree definitely helps. However, they're not required. There's a part of me that in this message, one thing that I want people to get out of this is that there is hope. Because for so long, we've been told that, it sucks to be millennials. It sucks to be Gen Z. Look at the economy we are going into. Look, like, we're just told these depressing stories. And it's true to a degree, because for a lot of millennials, you came into the workforce during the Great Recession of 2008. Things sucked. For Gen Z, you guys entered the workforce during COVID. And now people are doing layoffs almost every other week. I know it sucks. It is scary times for us. There has never been a period that has been unpredictable as the ones we live in today. However, I want y'all to have hope. Because I just feel like society just drains us of the hope. The amount of people I listen to and talk to where there's this nihilistic tendency now of people just believe like things are just gonna suck. And here's the thing though, I'm not the type who is just like super optimistic. I have a saying which is short-term pessimist, long-term optimist. In other words, I'm pessimistic in the present, optimistic for the future. My pessimism in the present forces me to do the work that is required so that my future, I can be optimistic about it. Now, part of that is because of my faith, because I believe that as long as God is on the throne, I'm good. I have that belief in him. So that definitely helps me a lot. It definitely helps me a lot, a whole bunch. I just want to share, like, there is hope. That's one of the big things I wanted to share out of this. Finally, to close this thing out, one of the key things that I noticed and I want y'all to take away. Remember, I said so far there are two ingredients that it took to become a millionaire. One was time, and second one was discipline. And part of this discipline aspect is, how are you spending your money? How are you spending your money? Even when millionaires don't have to worry about money anymore, they're still careful about their spending. 94% of the people studied said they live on less than they make. Have you guys heard that saying anywhere? Have you heard it before? I think I've heard it. It sounds very, very familiar. And then nearly 3/4 of millionaires have never carried a credit card balance in their lives. 93% of millionaires use coupons all or some of the time when shopping. What does this point to? Again, behavior matters. Behavior matters a little bit more than the numbers. It finishes up by saying, by staying out of debt and watching expenses, they're able to build their bank accounts instead of trying to get out of a financial hole every month. How are you using your money right now? Ramit Sethi says, to be confident with money, first you have to be competent with money. You have to know what's going on. You have to understand how you're using your money. You have to understand where your money is actually going. You have to understand, what are the things, where are the holes in my pocket? Notice it said earlier, it says, even when millionaires don't have to worry about money anymore, they're still careful about their spending. Which points to a second quote that Ramit Sethi always likes to say, which is, spend extravagantly on the things that you love and ignore everything else. In other words, they prioritize. They understand that although they can do anything that they want, they can't do everything. They have to be selective. They have to prioritize, which leads to something that Morgan Housel always says. And I love this quote. He says, saving money is the gap between your ego and your income. And wealth is what you don't see. So wealth is created by suppressing what you could buy today in order to have more stuff and more options in the future. Our pride is making us poor. Our pride is making us poor. The reason why I say that is, most of the time we're trying to impress people that don't care about us, that don't love us all the time. We're trying to impress people on Instagram. We're trying to impress people that are in our friends group. We're trying to impress people at work. We're trying to impress people, our neighbors. We're trying to impress people that don't matter. Like, minus your friends. Your friends matter. But even trying to impress them is pointless, because your friends will love you. But we have to, in order to get to that point, we have to kill our egos. Because in order for you to save money, in order for you to build wealth, something needs to go. Something needs to give. Like Morgan Housel said, saving money is the gap between your income and your ego. The less stuff you need, the less stuff you desire, the less stuff you chase for, the more money you can save. This is why we go back to Ramit Sethi's quote, spend extravagantly on the things that you love. What is it that you actually love? Is it going out to eat? Which means you might have to sacrifice traveling. You might have to sacrifice clothes. Is it going to sporting events? Which means sacrifice eating out. I told a friend, I said, I don't really care to go to the movies. And unless I get a crazy discount to go to the movies, I'm probably not going to go to the movies anymore. I don't need to go to the movies. And they were like, but why? I was like, it's just not one of the things that I want to spend money on. By not going to the movies all the time, it gives me money to spend on plantain chips. To spend on plantain chips, to spend on being able to have money to travel to see my sister in New York whenever I want to. It gives me the flexibility to be able to help people in my life, to give in different ways, which is more important to me. Suppressing your ego means ignoring the noise. Ignoring what social media says, this is the new thing you need to have. This is the thing you need to buy today in order for you to have a great, beautiful future, for you to look cool. Like, ignore all that stuff. Ignore it. You have to suppress your ego, and it's going to be not cool. Remember what they said, 93% of millionaires used coupons. It's not cool to use a coupon. It's not cool to use a list when you're driving around town. It's not cool, or it doesn't look cool when you're living on less than you make. It's not cool when you have to keep telling your friends no all the time, that you can't do stuff that they want to do. It's not cool. It doesn't look cool, at least in the short term. until you're on the other side. And then everybody's like, yeah, how did you do it? How? So we have to learn to suppress our egos. For some of us, that means we need to get off social media. Ignorance is bliss sometimes, especially if you've not built up the willpower enough to just ignore most things, to not care about most things. So there's 2 messages in this. 1, have hope, because there is a path to you being able to be financially free. And 2, kill your ego. Kill your ego. Because that's how, as Morgan Housel says, that's how you get to save money. And wealth is not what you see. It's what you don't see. But anyway, that's all I got for y'all. I hope y'all learned 1, maybe 2 things out of this entire thing. And if you did, share this podcast with 1 person that you love, 1 person that you hate, and 1 person you're just kind of like, about. And by that time, you'd have shared it with every single person that you know. Like, seriously, guys, like, send the link of this podcast to somebody you love and you think may need to hear this. Any one of the episodes, please share this podcast. And if you got time, please leave a review on iTunes or leave a review on any of the podcast listening platforms that you listen on, Spotify or any of these other ones, so that other people may be able to find the show. Remember, generosity is always greater than greed. God bless each and every single one of y'all, and I'm out. Peace. Whoosh.